Well, you mentioned July 1, that's the next key date when the carbon tax kicks in. Just the prospect of some change in the mood seemed to have excited Greg Combay when he went to the Parliament and decided to burst into song to attack Tony Abbott's negative tactics.
It reminds you a bit of the old Lucky Star song from the 1960s, I've been everywhere, man. You got Cabramatta, Parramatta, Wangaratta, Coolangatta, but the punchline's everywhere is doomed, man. That's what he is. Getting around, Lucky Star, everywhere's doomed, it's all gone.
He mocked the plight of the workers of this country, threatened by a carbon tax, by coming into this Parliament and singing a song.
Now, almost every day, Tony Abbott goes out into the community, if Parliament's sitting somewhere in the community very close to Parliament House, and finds a business that is affected by this. Brindabella Airlines came into for a bit of attention this week because they said that the prospect of the tax had caused them to cancel 2 routes. Here they are.
Wouldn't it make more sense to pass on the carbon tax and then wait to see if any routes are not profitable?
Well, these routes are already marginal at best, and really the carbon tax was the final nail in the coffin for them.
It was the final nail in the coffin.
If you see this Leader of the Opposition coming to your business, I have a bit of advice for you. Lock your doors, because this bloke will just talk down your business.
All right, what is the mood? Do you think there is potential for a switch in attitudes after July the 1st?
I don't know whether there'll be a switch in attitudes about the tax, but I think people will realise, a lot of families will realise, that it isn't going to impact that much on their family budget, that the compensation does cover their extra costs. A lot of businesses will realise that despite all of the warnings, they can pass on their extra electricity costs without much problem, without much impact on their business. I think there's a lot of hype, and people will, realise that it really has been overhyped. Now, whether that changes their view about the tax in general, that seems pretty entrenched, I don't know. But in terms of a thing that will hurt them personally, the evidence is going to be there.
They get the extra money and then they get the next power bill, and they could be up by as much as 20% in some places, not all due to the carbon tax, but there'll be nothing on the document that tells them that.
It'll be a constant reminder. I think that's the problem. And the other thing, I think, is that while the anger over the carbon tax itself might abate, maybe some of that will disappear as people feel, oh, well, maybe it's not so bad after all. But what will not disappear, I think, is the anger over the lie that spawned it. I think that is by far a bigger problem for Gillard than the actual operation of the tax itself.
Tony Abbott's already sort of started to shift his rhetoric a bit as well.
Yeah,
and
just
his
on
tactics.
that, let's hear from Tony Abbott on that, and then I'll get your views on that. Here's Tony Abbott.
The government talks to journalists about how they are Abbott-proofing all of the changes that they've made. People-proofing is effectively what they're doing. They are trying to prevent the next elected government from undoing the harm that they have done. And there is no doubt that there are measures associated with both the mining tax and the carbon tax that will be difficult to undo.
He's right. There are aspects that will be difficult to undo. There's going to be contractual obligations, so the government's going to write contracts, for instance, to pay for the closure of some brown coal power stations. You can't get out of them. The Clean Energy Finance Corporation will have entered into contractual arrangements with investors. You can't get out of them. Then there's the question about the Parliament and whether, in fact, it's possible to get a repeal through a hostile Senate before the new Senate takes its seat in 2014. Now, there's some hypotheticals in that. Labor might change its mind if it's wiped out and say, OK, we'll vote to repeal. I think less likely, but possible. Tony Abbott might win control of the Senate. Well, then he's home free. But if those things don't happen, there's a good body of opinion, of legal opinion, that he might not be able to repeal this thing until early 2015. And all the legislation has been written so that the carbon tax keeps getting charged, the authority keeps auctioning permits, the Clean Energy Finance Corporation keeps giving out grants until such time as the legislation is repealed. And then, of course, there's the question, is he going to repeal all the measures associated with it, the tax cuts, the increased household payments? And that's a matter of political will on the part of the coalition. So, yeah, there's big questions.
And all perhaps a year or more away.